Shitting. Dog shitting.
We're going on a trip in our favourite rocket ship.
Come on, Dales. You won't want to walk across this field, will you?
Will she balls?
No. Just like getting a belly wet. Staggles. What are you doing? Come here. Come here. Oh.
Getting our steps in, lads.
What's wrong with this dog?
Hypersocial.
Hypersocial.
Yeah, meant to.
Whopping.
Wop wop.
There you go. Big old field.
Oh, it's nice and
I feel
sunny.
like we've got a
here.
really long walk ahead of us.
That's a lovely
Can't
day.
stop eating lately though, so.
Yeah, I can tell.
Right.
Control your breathing.
Tennis was good yesterday.
Yeah, well, actually.
I got a right sweat
Should
on.
practice more.
Yeah. Come on, Marthy. Where's she gone?
Mia.
First question.
Okay.
Got some questions.
How do you help your dog overcome anxiety of strangers in the house safely?
So first you need to establish whether it's actual anxiety. People often diagnose their dog's aggression and defensive behaviour, as anxiety. So the dog's like trying to absolutely chin everyone coming into the house. That's not anxious behaviour, that's aggressive behaviour, and people often get them confused. Sometimes the dog can be chronically anxious and also displaying aggressive behaviour. Like the dog can be both at the same time, but in that acute moment, the dog is not being anxious. If the dog is being anxious and is kind of reserved in itself, it's shaking, it's panting, it's salivating, and whatever else that's associated with our dog being acutely anxious, then we establish a cattle conditioning protocol. But a lot of the time when the dog is overly defensive around the house, then we need to look at it slightly differently in order to create a window to start counter conditioning how the dog feels, because we can't counter condition a dog during a reaction. So house line, crate work, place work, we establish some control around the house and start thinking about capping that dog's behaviour however we need to do that. So it's really difficult to answer this question without seeing, is the dog being anxious or is he just being hyper defensive around the house? But like I said earlier, so many people misdiagnose their dog's anxious behaviour or aggressive behaviour, defensive behaviour, reactivity as anxiety, and perhaps the dog is chronically anxious, but sometimes they're just being a dick. And then we've got to address that. Then if we see an anxious dog, then we can counter condition. It's really difficult to do it around the house though, because you can't really work under threshold. You can work outside in. So we can meet the person outside, start putting a bit of control over our dog, then start thinking about counter conditioning, and then work into the eye of the volcano. But it's really hard with all the associated triggers too, like the doorbell, the postman doesn't help. We're all getting an Amazon parcel each and every day where the dog's reacting, and then stuck, where the dog's reacting, and then down, out, down, good boy. And then that behaviour's being reinforced. So first things first, I'd question whether it is anxiety or it's the dog being a dick. What do you think, Elisha?
That's correct.
Correct, thanks.
Everything you just said.
Come on, little guy. Right, Martha, I'm going to put you down now and you're going to walk. I think you're going to walk today. Come on then, sausage. There you go. Darla, come on.
Any plans for more workshops? I missed the trainer one last year.
Yeah, probably. They're in the pipeline. I want to start doing seminars with working spots and start addressing reactivity. The only problem with those sort of things,
Stack.
a lot of reactivity is addressed over one, a longer period of time, and two, in the everyday lifestyle stuff that we're implementing with our dogs. So it's hard to host a seminar, get 10 dogs to show up for working spots and start trying to address reactivity that way. What Ducky. Lad. So what I'm going to do is book the working spots and then throw a Zoom in with the working spot dog a month prior to the seminar or workshop to make sure they're doing all the foundation homework, give them access to the online academy, and then that way they can start putting in steps that will be beneficial to or aid them during their working slot seminar we do host. So fucking hell, that was a long-winded answer, but yeah, the answer is yeah.
Yes, you are.
Jacob, how are you so flawless? Love your banter and you being you.
No.
Oh, did you write this one? You definitely submitted this.
That's the last
There's
thing
a kiss
I've
on there.
ever said.
Nice. Thanks, Mum.
What is the rarest breed you have worked with?
Ooh, good question.
I don't know. There are certain breeds we don't get many of.
What's it called?
There was quite a popular breed the other day that I've never had one in. But I can't remember what it was now.
The
But go on.
Spaduli thing.
Spinoni?
We had what's she called? I can't say. That massive one. Boo. Can't say it.
What?
Boo beer. What are the
Well,
colours?
Beauceron.
Beauceron, that's
Yeah,
it.
I've met a few Beaucerons
Oh,
though.
yeah.
I think it's pronounced Beauceron. I think it sounds just French, but Starkey, look at these little dogs. Don't eat them, Starkey. Down. Come on. Boy. Come on, Marthy. Leave these little doggies alone. Come on, Dels. Good girl.
Would you like to try and train these?
No, thank you.
You just said no, thank you.
Yeah.
Next.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. They're that rare, you don't really see them. I'm trying to think. This question's got me pickled now.
I know. I think what breed we've never had, I don't know.
There's loads out there.
Yeah,
I've
there's
got
probably loads.
a dog breed bingo game.
That's sad.
I haven't heard of
That's
half
really
of them.
sad.
Well, no, it's good to. It's like a upskilling my knowledge, my dog knowledge. Right. Anyway, go on. Next question.
My 10-month-old boxer walks great in my local town, but pulls like a train when we go to a new town.
Stack.
So, like, that's the element of novelty, sending your dog's arousal up, and making it difficult for him to compose himself and give you the behaviour he already knows. So that means you've got to write down a list of 15 places, and you have to start just going to them places exclusively just to train. So instead of saying, all right, I'm going to go to Wakefield City Centre and walk my dog, I'm going to go to Wakefield City Centre and teach my dog how to walk there. As we all know, dogs are terrible at generalising their behaviour, so more often than not, when we go somewhere new, they will try and do the behaviour that they have done most in other places, even if in their local place, they can give you the loose lead walk or whatever that may be. So often this happens, people will start training their dog and they'll start teaching their dog a loose lead walk at their local park, and then the dog nails it. But the history of reinforcement of majority of places, they have pulled on the lead. Let's say that dog in its lifetime has been to 100 different places, and on the 101st place you start teaching him that he has to walk nicely on a loose lead. However, there's still a 99 out of 100 chance, or 100 out of 101 chance, that that dog is going to get away with pulling, because of history tells us in the majority of places he is allowed to pull. So what we need to do to combat that is we visit 200 places and the old places and make sure the most of the time we go somewhere that our dog is more likely to be expected to walk on a loose lead than be allowed to pull on the lead. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
Our dog is afraid of moving things when we walk. If it's behind, he always looks that way. Any advice?
So a dog won't be in a state of, a dog can be in a state of fear and take food. However, it is unlikely he's going to be in a true state of fear and take food. So what we do is we build our dog's food drive to as high as we can possibly get it. And we've posted about how to do that probably 1,000,001 times, so I'm not going to talk about it now. Once we've done that, we start giving our dog known behaviours in the presence of that potential trigger or whatever they're scared of, something moving in this instance. And then what we do over time is we incrementally shorten that distance. When we're operating out of true fear, we can't rush the process. We have to work at the dog's rate. We can set the dog up for success by building food drive. But what we want to do is imagine that, I don't know, it's a road and it's moving cars. What people typically do is they send the dog over threshold each and every day by leaving the house, walking down the street, and immediately cars are shooting past at 3 foot, 4 foot, or whatever it may be. So we need to put the dog in our car, go out somewhere where there's a lot of open space and perhaps a road adjacent, and start giving our dog sit and recall and sit and down and whatever it may be. In between those behaviors though, we want to allow our dog to watch and be exposed to that potential trigger. So car shoots past, I let Fido watch, I might just yes and feed. I would utilize a recall. Sorry Martha, she doesn't want to walk on the grass. Okay, they'll go over here then.
For people with a new puppy,
Yeah.
that's not yet exposed to cars,
Yeah.
what would your advice be to them? Would you do the same process or would you skip a few steps?
So our puppy's going to tell us how they feel about certain things. So Stark as a puppy had problems, not a problem, but I was carrying him at 8-week-old next to a road and cars were passing and he was doing this.
Yeah.
And like scanning and scanning. So that told me he is going to potentially have a problem at chasing cars. So we took our charged marker, a clicker, I offset myself from the road, and every time he locked eyes onto a car, I click, feed, feed. Over time, the click becoming an anticipatory marker, or the car becoming an anticipatory marker to the clicker and therefore food. And over time he was just seeing a car, turning at me, seeing a car, turning at me. And we can apply the same protocol with a nervous dog. And ultimately, if we teach the click how we should do it effectively, it's like a baby recall. All we're doing is essentially asking our dog, see something that scares you, recall at me. See something that scares you, recall at me. As long as we're taking food, as long as they are taking food, we're probably making good strides. And then we can incrementally just close down that distance.
Nice.
There you go. What was the next one?
Best or funniest dog names you've heard?
We had a dog in called Jip, which I find is just a class name. Jip, which means a lot of horsepower. I wish I'd called Stark Jip. I've heard of another Starky this week for the first time, so a Dachshund, I believe. I like human names for dogs.
We've got Dave, haven't we?
We've got Dave, the Bernedoodle, Kevin. They're all good.
Mabel.
Things like Snowball and that are dying out, aren't they? Like
yeah,
they don't really happen anymore. Got a Martha here. That's quite a nice name.
Don't really have
Any others?
ridiculous names, do we?
I don't think so. I think Daft. Yeah, go on.
Am I daft in not knowing what a place command is? Could you please explain further?
So you're not daft. It's just one of those words that's thrown around a lot and talked about a lot, and I'll touch on why now it's important, other than to get your dog to stay in one particular place, like stay on their bed. But essentially that's what people mean. It's usually a long down stay on a particular surface, but we could utilize it for different we can almost utilize it as an accessory for behavioral rehabilitation, and a lot of the time getting our dogs to be calm. So we can send our dog to our bed, and if that behavior is nice and strong, we build a lot of value in it, and then we also apply some negative reinforcement overlaid on top of it. So not only do I want you to love your place, but you have to stay there when I cue you there. We can then utilize that to get our dog to feel better about potential triggers. So let's go back to our dog that feels fearful about cars. I can utilize place to send my dog in a low arousal state, and then I can start delivering food in the form of room service. So that's me going to the dog every time a car passes, and I can just start rewarding him for feeling calm or maintaining calmness in the potential presence of the trigger. I utilize it a lot for reactive dogs. So yesterday we had a session with a reactive German Shepherd. For the majority of the session we did long downstays around the presence of other dogs, and then just rewarding him. Once he held that behavior for long enough, we'd give him a break and then scatter feed some food, just making sure that whole session was nice and calm. So a place is often a long downstay, often on a placemat or a bed or a bath towel or a rug, or it could just be on this grass here, but where it's usually referring to a long duration behavior, again, that we can utilize as an accessory to behavior mods. And it's also handy for when we want to take our dog more places, right? So
again, for people first teaching this, especially younger dogs and puppies, how would you go about, because there's obviously
different ways, right?
Conflicting ways of some use food, some don't use food. What do you think the most effective method would be?
So for Stark, I put him on a house lead and I said place. I literally like compelled him on, like hand on the bum, lead on, but and I didn't utilize any food. Every time he got off, I said no, took him back, and just made it really, really boring. As soon as he lied down and kind of put his chin on the floor, I then released him. So I almost used it as like a back tie exercise. That's because of I wanted to utilize all of my food out and about in the presence of competing motivators.
Yeah.
He's a working line Malinois. I'm not going to pay that dog to go and lie down in my house. No, you can just lie down in my house.
Yeah.
Where the dogs are a little bit more flat, or they haven't got that like work ethic in them, then we could potentially like lure on with food. We can free shape it. If we've got a really food motivated dog though, sometimes it can create quite a lot of anticipation on the place work, whereas it's counterintuitive to how we want our dog to feel about being on place, right? Whereas the whole point is it's a place of calmness, it's a place of low arousal. So we don't want our dog in a high anticipation state. So we can then meet in the middle, use a bit of compulsion and then food overlaid on top. We made that video for the academy yesterday about the Rottweilers down.
Yeah.
So that's a nice way to do it, with a little bit of lead pressure and a lure, and then we fade out the lure and then we give the command and then the lead pressure, and we get a nice stable down instead of one where the dog is going to anticipate receiving food. What we never do is pay out of the behavior. So we never want to release the dog and then pay him for placing.
Yeah.
We might do that for a send away or a touch command for obedience, but when it's pet dog stuff, we want to get the dog there, whether we lure them into the down or we wait for the down, or sometimes we can compel into the down. We want to pay in behavior if we're paying at all, and then we're going to break cue the dog off. We always want to break cue the dog off when the dog's giving us calmness though. So we can go as far as you're not coming off that place until your chin goes down, and then what we start doing is teaching the dog that if you go to place, the quicker you calm down, the quicker you come off.
Yeah.
And then very quickly the place will become a place of calmness, because we say place, the dog like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do now.
Yeah.
Chin goes down, they offer the chin rest, and then we can start asking for more duration of calmness. So
do you think initially, when teaching younger dogs, puppies, that the back tie would be better for the person trying to teach it?
Yeah. A back tie is more consistent than any human handler, right?
Yeah.
Including you and I as professional dog trainers. Like, we back tie our dog, there's never going to give any give. So super easy exercise we can do for puppies, even with or without food. So we can use the release of place as reward, or we could use the food as reward, or both. Is we anchor the dog to an immovable object on the collar. As soon as they start giving us calmness, so from a stand to a sit, we pay. From a sit to a down, we pay. From a down, a sphinx down where the dog is upright, to a sloppy down where the dog is on their side, we can pay. From, even if the dog gives us chin rest, we can pay. Or even if the dog does a big sigh like this, we can pay. And very quickly start getting that dog through the sequence of calmness, where they're going to fly into the chin rest, bum on the floor and almost falling asleep. And we get that point, we release the dog from the back tie.
Nice.
And then for dogs that are even using for behavioural mod and are naughty around the house, once we've taught that concept, we can utilise a second lead that's on the dog and use the back tie place work, let's call it, or the back tie consequentially. So you're dicking around in the house, I'm not going to say anything, I'm going to just take you to the place of calmness. As soon as you calm down, the dog will start regulating its drive. Chances are it's being naughty because its drive, or its arousal, should I say, has gone too high. And we can just combat that. Right, go on your place. And he's like, oh, I got to calm down now. I know I got to calm down because that's the only way I got off this damn fucking thing. Mm-hmm. And then very quickly we can start utilising that, again, consequentially for misbehaving, quote unquote, misbehaving in and around the home. Does that make sense?
Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
Keep coming across dogs who resource guard humans against other dogs.
So it's usually dogs with like quite high possession, and they're saying, get away from my shit. For me, It means the human and dog doesn't have the best relationship, and we need to look at how we're living with the dog. But sometimes even with good relationships, we can still have this problem. To combat this, we use disassociation. So, Darla, Darla, come. There she is. Yay. Hi. Okay, go on then, go on. Marthy, you tangled, love, come on then. So, we take a tree, we take a 5-yard long line, we have a short lead on the dog, we get our stooge to come up to the handler and the dog. Martha, oh, she's pissing. The handler and the dog, and as soon as our dog reacts, we say nope and leave the dog. So if you want to possess me, you lose me. If you want to possess me, you lose me. If you want us to stick together, then you shouldn't react. So we can use like negative punishment, the removal of us, as what the dog wants to combat that. So it's not going to be too taxing and stressful on the dog, but it's also a good way. So another example is, keep walking. People sat on the sofa with their dog, and then boyfriend, husband, or whatever, dad comes along to sit on the sofa next to the owner, right? And then the dog aggresses. That's a perfect time to use the back tie. So we have the house line on the dog growls and aggresses, we're off the sofa, we go onto the back tie, when definitely no conflict from the trigger, which is the person the dog is possessing from, the person's dog wants to go away. We don't want any conflict there or punishment there, which is often what happens. Hey, you little shit, like fucking you don't you dare do that. Then what happens, the dog wants that person to go away even more, and will probably escalate their behavior to combat that. So we say, all right, stack here, out, heel. So Dals, good girl. Dals.
See dog 20 times.
Dals. Just getting past these dogs. Dals. Okay. Fuck was I?
What?
Where was I?
So you were talking about couch to go on, not getting in the conflict.
Yeah, so then we remove the dog, put them on our back tie, for example. Dog's gonna go, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And then they're gonna realize that they lose the owner once they start being possessive. Right, does that make sense?
Yep.
So disassociation, like, oh hey, we're not hanging around if you're gonna be like that.
Nice, next.
Go on.
If you could only have one breed for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
What would you have? Depends what
you want it for.
Yeah, what I'm into at the time.
I mean, realistically, your Malinois, you
can do anything
you can take
with.
anywhere and do anything with, but you've also got the fun sport side of him.
Yeah, Stark's really cuddly in the house, and he's actually can be really chill. So I don't know, boys. Come on. Good girl, Marthy. So he is a bit of everything, but like so is Ranger, just on a lower level. So if I wasn't a dog trainer, it'd be a Staffy, and if I was a dog trainer, it'd just be a clone of Stark, probably.
If I was a dog trainer,
you can do anything, can you? Stark.
He's an influencer now, guys, not a dog trainer.
Jump.
How to enrich a dog with bad dysplasia who doesn't care for food or toys?
If he didn't care for food, he'd be dead. So he does care for food, you're just using food wrong. So you go find our food motivation guide, which will be all over our Instagram. You get the dog crazy for its food, and then you do scent work, nose work, scatter feeding, and just let the dog utilize his nose to achieve fulfillment if they can't play and things like that. If he can swim, even better. Swim and nose work, you'll have a happy dog, but you can always build drive for food. I did read this question, I think, and it is a livestock garden breed, which are harder to get to eat reliably, but it is possible because we have done it plenty of times. So we build food drive and then scatter work, scent work. It can be as easy as taking a portion of kibble, scattering it over the garden, and then just letting him spend half an hour finding it, utilizing his nose. That'll knacker him out, and then swimming as well. if the dog is able to swim with his hips, obviously. Yeah.
How to calm overexcitement, whining or mouthing for retrieving. It's a working lab.
Gun dog training isn't my forte, but we can apply the same principles we do for our protection dogs prior to the bite. So we don't want mouthing, we don't want leaking, which is then making that noise. We want the dog to be calm, and then you get to bite. And we apply the same concept to a Labrador before the retrieve. So typically the dog's going to be triggered by potentially gunfire or the shooting of the dummy or whatever it may be. So what we do is we obviously take a lead. Typically we slip leads in gun dog training, right? We're going to put the dog into a sit or downstay or wherever it may be. Stuck here. Good boy.
Come here.
There you go, look. Marthy, come on. There's a big newfie poo there, look. We wait for calmness, we wait for a closed mouth, we wait for no leaking, and then we can give the dog the shoot or whatever it may be, right? So, budge. But we make sure we get calmness before. Hi mate, you okay? We make sure we get calmness before the next part of the sequence happens. All right, so we get calm, we go to sit, we get calm again, but we don't allow the trigger to happen. And gun work, we're in control of the trigger. We decide when it goes off. Once my dog's calm, I don't care if it takes 5 minutes. I can use a little bit of negative reinforcement on the slip lead upward if I need to. Might need a thinner slip lead than your typical gun dog training slip lead, and ride it a little bit higher. Once we get that, calm, quiet, gun goes, might need calm again, okay, retrieve. But we pre-mac it. You give me calm, you do your job. We give me calm, you do your job. Don't, however, allow the dog to be leaking and chompy or whatever you're describing it as on the occasional bite and giving them the benefit of the doubt. This will create a dog that's in the casino and a bit of a gambler, and over time it'll make your problem worse. But we pre-mac it. Calm, you do your job. Calm, you do your job.
Do you think it's important for a dog to be social with other dogs?
So my black dog here is not sociable with other dogs. She does not like other dogs, but you've seen her pass a bunch of dogs on this walk because she minds her own business, and also Dala comes back when she's cold, right? So if you don't have a sociable dog, you can compensate a little bit with control. She was a dog once upon a time that would go out of her way to start fights with other dog, and it's my then role as a handler, owner, or whatever it may be to say, you're not allowed to do that, pick something else. Stark is a sociable dog, but it's just very neutral. He doesn't give a fuck about other dogs, especially when he's got his dummy in that ball, right? Darla is not a sociable dog. She doesn't like dogs getting up in her face, but will avoid conflict as best as she can. As you've seen on this walk, will go around dogs and things like that, because it probably stems from uncertainty, being a street dog or a former street dog. So it's important, but often by over-socializing your dog in an effort to have your dog feel good about other dogs creates more problems than not. A question I asked a client the other day was, a dog that meets 100 dogs versus a dog that meets 3 dogs, which dog is more likely to get bit? Obviously the dog that meets more dogs, because there's a greater volume of dogs and therefore the likelihood of getting bit increases. So, yes, it's important, I guess they are social, but it depends on your definition of sociable. So we might have some cockapoos over here that run up and jump in my dog's face. The owner might think they are sociable and that's sociable behavior. I would argue that Darla would think otherwise, and she would try to avoid that. And if she doesn't avoid that, she'll probably aggress in order to skirt that situation. Stark doesn't give a fuck about anything, which is what I really like about him. So he can be taken anywhere. And Darla, she's a good girl. Like I said, we got a lot of control over her. She's going to come back when she's cold and will give us a little bit of obedience. But for the most part, she's good at avoiding that conflict nowadays, whereas before she was straight to a reaction or a bite. So again, even a non-sociable dog, which we got an example of here. Stark's trying to go back to the ICA. Yep. Right, we're going over again. Stark, here. Come on. Go around again. Even a non-social dog can still be a fulfilled dog. As you can see here, Darla's there, a bunch of dogs over here. She's not going to go out of her way to go and The only reservation I have is if cockapoo number 2 over here comes and jumps on her back and tries to mount her. And that's his problem in my eyes.
Have you had any dogs you were unable to successfully train?
Other than Martha, no. All right, mate, you all right?
Once I've established food motivation, do I continue feeding 4 meals a day forever?
No. So you can even fade away hand feeding later on down the line. You don't even have to hand feed forever. For example, now if I'm using food with any of my dogs, I'll use a bit of pate, 50 grams in the morning. I reduce the kibble on a night by approximately 50 grams, and they get that in a slow feeder, and they're fed once a day. You might change your training to twice a day, for example. You might change your training to twice a day, for example, and just spread that food ration, daily food ration over 2 sessions. You could do it over 5. When Stark was a puppy, I would put 300, 400 grams or whatever it was he ate per day in a food pouch and just get through that throughout the day. The reason we do 4 is because we want to give the dog frequent opportunity, especially if we're removing food if they don't want it, frequent opportunity to earn that food without them going too hungry for too long. So little bouts of hunger should they decide to not take that food. Yeah, so the answer is no.
We are getting a black lab puppy in July. What are the top 5 things to work on right away?
Elisha, give me 3.
Place work. Recall.
Place work.
Start recall.
Recall.
Neutrality. Yeah. Get them neutral.
Yeah.
Realistically, you don't need much more than
No, I know.
recall, loose lead eventually, but don't overdo it with a puppy.
Yeah. Boy.
Place work. Play.
There they go, look.
Play.
Play, get them playing, get them used to a ball, like get them motivated, make sure you're not fucking around, like fucking up the dog's food drive by playing pick and mix every day at dinner time. Crate train your dog.
Yeah.
Crate train your dog. Independence from your puppy. Don't be tied to your puppy's hip or have your puppy tied to your hip all day, every day. That's about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go on, what was the next one?
My reactive dog struggles to meet dogs on a walk one-to-one. He's fine in a group or busy places.
I've got my theories on this. Sometimes when there's like a dog that is like a garden breed, a farm breed, like even just a shepherd or a collie, they can be superstitious of changes in the environment. So you could put them in a dog park and they'll be fine with 20 dogs in that dog park, but you could take them to a secluded field and one dog enters that field and therefore changes the environment, and the reaction isn't so much because of the other dog, it's because of the change in the environment. Which is really difficult because there's a genetic component there, right? So that's when we have to do stooge work and we need friends to help us out and start kind of counter conditioning a response, whilst also obviously putting control on the dog. I'm not going to go too intricate about methods and exactly the technicalities on how we do that, but that's probably half the reason why. Or we have like this, conversely, good boy, good boy, Stucky, Carla, oh boy. Or conversely, we have a dog that has a bit of aggression in there, or a bit of uncertainty-based reactivity, let's call it, and he's overindulged in that environment, so therefore feels like it would be a stupid idea to start like creating a fuss. But when he's one-on-one with a dog, he might feel a little bit more secure in himself and therefore then be thinking about the reaction. So that's a fucking hard one. But again, what people often with their reactive dog expect to try and fix, and this is because of certain fucking people on YouTube and Instagram will teach you fix reactivity during your regular walk, which you absolutely do not. You'd go away from the regular walk and then you work back into your regular walks. So we might be doing our loose lead work in an open field where there's dogs in the distance, and then start closing that distance over time, instead of, right, I'm going to put my dog on a slip lead today and I'm going to walk down the street and I'm going to expect him to tolerate another dog that's walking opposite us, and I'm just going to correct him upwards on the lead or whatever, should he react, expecting it to go away. more often than not, a dog's crossing each other on a narrow path is the absolute hardest situation they could possibly deal with. So we're essentially running a marathon before we can run a mile with our reactive dog. So strip it back, run a mile one day, a mile and a half the next day, and then start closing down that distance. Ultimately, if we boil it down to the bare basics, you're asking your dog to do something that they're probably not able to tolerate, and you'll find that their toleration point of where they can tolerate another dog in their space. Dal, stuck here. Stuck. Another dog in their space. Good dogs. Is far greater than potentially on a narrow path.
How do you build trust and a relationship with an abused rescue dog?
Okay. Go on. What were you going to say? You sighed?
I was going to laugh because of how many times we hear the excuse that it's
not many people are actually going around abusing dogs, but first thing first, forget about the fact that she was abused. Like, that's not helping at all. That's only going to hinder. Like, we've adopted Pepper Potts. We don't know what she went through, and ultimately, like, who gives a fuck? It's not going to change. I can't convince her, because I can't have a human conversation with her, what has happened in the past was not her fault, right? You can do that with a human child, but you can't do it with a dog. All I can show her is what is in front of her, and that's all you can do with your potentially abused rescue dog. So you take things nice and slow, but that shouldn't jeopardize structure for the dogs. The dog should have structure and routine and boundaries and some discipline. And that doesn't mean like going around bonking the dog every time they get it wrong. We just want to manage the dog so we are setting them up for success and just taking our time. So I didn't hand feed Pepper Pot straight away. I fed her out of a slow feeder for a week, 2 weeks, then slowly started hand feeding her when her food drive built up. Then we started a little bit of play, but the most important factors were you sleep in a crate, you're a good girl around the house. I didn't worry about lead pulling. I didn't worry about recall. And we started a little bit of place work, but most important thing was I'm going to put a house lead on you to make sure that I'm not creating any conflict between us. So your rescue dog in your house is probably going to get a bunch of things wrong. And the worst thing you can do is start going right close to them and start grabbing their collar and stopping them from doing everything that they might want to be exploring. So that's why we use a house line. If I go near Pepper Potts and go put my hand in her collar, she'll like scurry away. And that's not because of I think she's been abused. I just think she's a little bit naughty and she's had her collar grabbed a lot. And I think that's the number one reason that most people get bit as well. So a little trail line, a 6-foot line on the dog, making sure that we're taking conflict taking the conflict out of micromanaging our dog on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, all those principles.
How did you both get into serious dog training roles?
You was a waitress first, weren't you, love?
No.
What?
Well, you know me so well, don't you? No, I wasn't a waitress first.
What were you?
I studied equine, didn't I?
Yeah, where did we find you? Street corner.
Street corner. No, I studied equine first.
Did you?
Yeah. I
You like
trained
horses?
I loved training horses.
Oh, nice.
Getting them a bit fresh, training them up a bit.
Have you ever ridden a horse bareback?
All the time.
Did you?
Yeah, all the time.
Rogue, aren't you?
Yeah. It was great.
What was the question?
How did you become a dog trainer?
Oh, right. Well, Elisha eventually just applied for a job with us a few years back and gave her a job. I took my dog to a dog trainer who then offered me a job, and then I left there and started this place. You got to learn under someone, under someone that you're seeing lots and lots of dogs. You can do all the studies in the world you want, but if you're not seeing dogs and you're not...
They're trying to get some distance.
Oh, Stark here.
Bells.
Out. Dolly will mind her own... Heel. Dolly will mind her own business. Heel.
Go
on, Dels, go. Thanks, mate. Border Terriers love a bark at dogs, don't they?
Well, I love it.
What were we on about?
Learning under somebody.
Oh, yeah, you got to learn under someone. You have to see dogs in person. You have to learn dogs. You have to start handling dogs. You have to meet different dogs. I don't think you can get very far without your own dog, if I'm honest. Like the concept of a dog trainer without a dog, like fucking blows my mind. It's like a mechanic without a car or a dentist without teeth. Like you've got to have an experience in building. Fair enough if you've like fucking gone, just jog that off. Fair enough if you've had an older dog and it's died and you haven't got round to getting another dog yet. But if you're out kind of and you haven't got a stooge dog or whatever, then yeah, not for me. Yeah.
Are you guys dating?
No.
No.
Absolutely
I'm old enough to be a father.
Andy's disgusting.
And she's like a rank little chub. She's not my type at all. I like posh birds.
Like, no, that is...
I do like posh birds. My bird's posh.
Yeah, your bird is posh now.
Just because I've liked tramps in the past doesn't mean I like you now. Right, we're going to have a fight if we carry on this question. Yep. Next question. No, we're not.
How old are you, Jacob?
30. How old am I? 30. Am I 31?
It's about 45.
Nah.
The wrinkles are coming through.
No, I'll get Botox, me. I will get Botox.
You will.
People start thinking I'm older than I am, I'll get Botox.
What do I do to stop and bring down excitement?
Fucking hell. What the fuck are we supposed to answer that?
What did he say?
What do I do to stop and bring down excitement?
In what context?
In what context? Like I said earlier with your Labrador, you don't give the dog what it wants until it's giving you calm. Chances are you're talking about the dog being excited somewhere where it doesn't have a lead on. Now it doesn't have a lead on, you can't stop the dog going to receive the reinforcement it potentially wants. So, the dog gets excited over the opportunity to run out the back door and chase squirrels in the garden, right? A lot of people will say to the dog, sit, wait, which creates like a coiled spring. The door opens, the dog doesn't wait, fucks off. And we think because we're putting the dog in a sit and a wait, we must therefore be calming the dog down. And again, we're probably more often than not just carrying a cold spring. So we have a lead on the dog, we open the front door, our dog gives us calm, we can then go. And don't get me wrong, there's a fucking 101 ways to deal with this. But more often, the main mistake people are making is that they are allowing their dog to achieve reinforcement through the overexcitement and then trying to punish the dog. But if we just put in a management step, like a lead, and say, we're not going any further through this sequence of events, even if it's just to go to the toilet outside, until you give me what I want, which is you being calm and lowering your arousal, then you can't go far wrong. Also apply the back tie activity that we spoke about earlier in this thing. That'll be beneficial too. I'm fucked.
That's all them cakes.
Big boy.
My rescue 1-year-old pit bull races out of the kennel, even with a sit or a wait.
Oh, there you go. Just answered that one for you. Next.
Would love to see some spaniel stuff and how to apply your methods to hunting and retrieves.
Well, none of us like spaniels, so you probably won't. Go on, what was the last bit? I'm not a gun dog trainer. I think
retrieving items though.
Yeah.
You've taught a retrieve.
I'd teach a retrieve, yeah. Yeah, I'll do it now. Look, Stark here. I'll show you gun dog trainer. Out. Oh shit. Elisha will catch that for you. Front. You idiot. Front. No, front. Good. Heel. Bring. Oh, that was shit.
That was shit.
Yeah. Oh, well, he's back. There you go. There's a retrieve for you. What was the question?
How do you go about teaching it?
Retrieve. Oof. I think you're asking the wrong guy. Teach the dog to sit and wait for a ball first.
Keep hearing mentions of different types of training. What are the differences?
Yeah, so instead of this type versus that type, there is a spectrum. And people even lie about what camp they're in as well. So there are generally one camp that morally does not mind applying aversion or discomfort to a dog. And there is another camp that suggests that we should never put the dog through aversion or discomfort. Aversion or discomfort is an inevitable part of life. So we can sometimes utilize aversion and discomfort to prepare our dog for certain aversions and discomfort in life. So for example, Stark has not made a wrong move this whole walk, and he's a crazy dog, right? But he is e-collar trained. Now I don't have to utilize the e-collar anymore because we've just got habitual behavior, like that's how he behaves, and he also really likes his ball. Sausages. Look, Marthy, sausages. So I don't want to, in real life, wait for my dog, Stark, to go and make a real life boo-boo, like run into a road, or go and get bit by that sausage dog, or potentially scare those 3 young ladies there, and him potentially go through discomfort. I would rather teach him that certain actions have consequences to give him the best life possible. So he's not been on a walk on a lead this whole walk, and he's absolutely loved it, as you can tell. Now, should I have not taught him some potentially life lessons with the form of aversion or discomfort, and we're not talking about an absolutely leathering the dog, then perhaps I would have had to have relied more on management and utilize a long line throughout this walk, which for me, with someone that has 5 dogs, is not feasible because I would then have to walk them all separately, and again, not giving him the quality of life that he deserves as a working breeder dog. So I fall in the camp that should the ends justify the means, that we can use aversion and discomfort so long as it is overall improving the dog's general welfare. If we're utilizing them selfishly just to make our lives easier, 1, we're probably going to create a problem in our dog, and 2, I don't think you should have got a dog in the first place. So we have what people refer to as balance training, people that use potentially tools, and again, some form of discomfort, and then force-free training, which are utilizing toys, food, and management, and should be utilizing fulfillment and things like that in the dog and meeting the dog's needs. However, my caveat is a good balanced dog trainer should be considering all of those things as well. Unfortunately, some don't, because of tools can be effective in suppression. We can often get caught up in the trap of relying on them. So, answer your question, we've got force-free and balanced. This is very, very vague, but we have to remember there's a wide old spectrum of dog trainers in between. I know dog trainers that are 99% force-free and use a little bit of aversion sometimes, should it be deemed necessary. And I also, she's not moving. Oh, good God. And then I also know dog trainers that are 99% compulsion and will give a dog a biscuit after they've smashed them into a behavior to make them feel better about it. There's a wide old spectrum. So, difficult question to ask, but they hate each other, so that's all you really need to know. Both will tell you the other is as wrong as each other, and the other are idiots and outdated and blah, so whatever. We got any more?
How to calm a Cocker Spaniel that gets overexcited seeing other dogs and people on a walk.
Take a break from walks, build this food drive, teach him a killer recall on a 5 metre long line, show him all of those things that he gets overexcited about, and just before he goes past the point of overexcitement, you're going to recall him, pay him, recall him, pay him, recall him, pay him, and then on the 5th one, you're going to recall him and pay him a big jackpot of his food. And then you're going to put him away, go home, do some scent work in the garden, do some play, teach him that there's other things he can find value in. And then the day after, we're going to go to the field again, and then we're going to do 8 recalls instead of 5. And we're going to jackpot the 3rd and the 8th recall. And we're going to repeat that process until our dog doesn't give a fuck about seeing those things. Then we go to teach a loose lead walk.
What's your advice for people training their dog who gets nervous in busy places?
Let's call her Sarah. Sarah's confident with her own dog.
Yeah.
Dog's got a bit of issues, but she's not worried about working with her dog. She's worried about other dogs around her, which then is obviously detrimental to her training because she can't push herself and push the dog.
What's she worried about the other dogs for? Like the other dog's going to get to her?
Unpredictability of the dogs running over her. And
so we need to start in places where dogs have to be kept on lead, right? So outside something like pets at home or a shop where the dog's not going to be whopping around off lead and get that person exposed to the potential trigger. It's exactly the same as working with a dog, but the positive reinforcement is we have a successful session. Yeah. How do we have a successful session? We utilize management to set ourselves up for success, And if that means only going to certain places where dogs have to be kept on lead by law or otherwise in order to create like a bit of a backlog of success, again like we would do with the dog, then that's what she needs to do.
Nice.
Sit at a cafe, but like do other hard things. Kirky's story was when we first opened this place and he had to run his first group class, he was palpitating and freaking and stressing out like I've never seen anyone else before. And he's played in several grand finals and World Club challenges, and he said to me as the class was starting, I'm more nervous than any rugby match I've ever played. So like, I guess nerves can be contextual, but he should have a better backbone than that boy. One more.
Is it important to understand why my dog reacts to other dogs for the training to work?
For your peace of mind, potentially yes. However, more often than not, we can get so tied up on it that it creates more conflict than, or like more stagnation than anything else, because we're constantly worrying, oh, my dog hates Dalmatians, my dog hates Dalmatians, my dog hates cockapoos, oh, he got bit by this dog, he got bit by that dog, or he's not gonna be okay with this dog coming up to him. And we can really like get hung up on it so much so that we forget about like moving forward again. And it's like that rescue dog syndrome where we're just worrying so much about the past in which we cannot change that we let the sight of the future and what we need to do with our dog like pass us by. So the treatment protocol is the same. It's gradual exposure to the potential trigger. So whether that's nerves or overexcitement, frustration, or wherever it's coming from, the end goal is we're going to gradually expose our dog to things that previously overexcited them, made them nervous, made them scared, made them feel aggressive, whatever it may be. And the protocol to achieving that is quite often, 99% of the time, the same. So there you go. All the answers are in our online academy. I probably should plug this after speaking for an hour and a half. So anything in terms of techniques and intricacies that you need that's to do with any of this, in terms of creating calmness, loose lead walking, reactivity protocol, treatment of reactivity and aggression in dogs, is all on our online academy, which you'll find in our links are in the bio absolutely everywhere. So check that out if you've found this video helpful. And I think that's us done. So we'll see you later. Hope you've enjoyed the woodland walkies, I think we call it.